And for a long time, Stephan, I struggled with money guilt. I was making great money, as in my mid-20s, but I was living in my parents' basement. And I just felt really guilty about it because my parents, I come from a blue-collar working family. They both work 2 full-time jobs, and I was earning more than both of them combined, and I was working a fraction of the time and energy and effort. And I felt guilty about it for a long time. And what would happen was my income would get to a certain level, and then my subconscious would kick in, would say, "Whoa, Stewie, this is too much money. There's too much money." And then I would stop doing the things that were working.
Hello and welcome to Marketing Speak. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer. It's my pleasure to have Stu McLaren with us. Stu is the creator of the membership experience and co-founder of Searchy. Since 2008, Stu has been working intimately with tens of thousands of authors, speakers, coaches, consultants, and business owners to transform what they know, love, and do into recurring revenue by launching, growing, and scaling 6, 7, and 8-figure membership businesses. Stu and his wife, Amy, launched a Canadian charity called Village Impact. Since 2009, they've been bringing schools and education to rural villages throughout Kenya. One of their core beliefs is that they hold dear to their heart is that the more money we make, the more impact we can have. Stu, it's so great to have you on the show.
Stephan, thanks for having me, buddy. Great to be here.
So one thing we have in common is an interest in helping kids in Africa in rural villages. I've been on the board of Impact Network for almost a decade, and I've donated enough money that I think there's several schools at least that exist because of my donations. And I don't, I'm not bragging. I'm just saying that I feel like this is an important thing to do. And one thing that was a coincidence that happened in 2011 was I met Dan Sutera, formerly of Yext, who is the co-founder of Impact Network, at a mastermind. And I had just gotten back from Zambia, which is where they focus. I had just gotten back from a Tony Robbins Platinum Partner trip where we went to a school. So I'm curious to hear what your origin story is, why Kenya, why this charity, and what are your plans for it?
Well, it's a great story and question, and it really focuses on my wife. My wife is the true catalyst for it all. She has always been a traveler, traveling to remote areas of different countries. And she actually started her career in education. She was a grade 1 teacher for more than 10 plus years. And so when she's traveling to these remote areas, she would see kids that would want to go to school, but just couldn't. Either the school was too far for them. They're walking, 7, 8, 9 kilometers one way just to get to school, or they just didn't have the means. A lot of their families were requiring the kids to stay home to be able to work, to be able to earn enough money, to be able to put food on the table type thing. So she really wanted to do something about it. And one year, this was way back in 2006, Amy and I were watching a show that Oprah had called The Big Give. And Oprah would essentially go into a community in the States, and she would donate about $100,000 and would completely transform the lives of a family. And Amy and I loved watching the show. And one time after the show, Amy said, "You know what? Like, I really want to do that." And I said, "Yeah, like that sounds awesome." She's like, "No, I'm serious. I want to do something like that, but in a developing country." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, when do you want to do that?" And she said, "Over the Christmas holidays." Now, Stephan, this was like the second week of December. So I'm doing the math. I'm like, "Well, wait a minute." I'm like, "Babes, that's like in 2 weeks." And she said, "Yeah." She said, "I'm the traveler. I'll figure out the travel plans and where we're going. You're the business guy. You raise the money and let's make it happen." And I was like, "Okay." So that was the beginning of what eventually became our charity called Village Impact. And we've been an official Canadian charity since 2009. And since that time, we have focused all of our efforts over in Kenya. And the reason being is because we tried a few different projects in different countries. And what we realized was a few key lessons. One, first and foremost, we're a very small charity. And by design, we needed a partner that we could have unquestionable trust with, because we were dealing with, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars now in terms of projects. And we needed somebody who we could have, the utmost trust with to help us manage the construction of those schools. And we ultimately found that person in Kenya. Her name's Irene. We call her the Mother Teresa of Africa. And she cares just as much about, helping these communities as we do. And together with that partnership and the partnership that we have then formed with the Kenyan government, we've now built 15 schools. We just got back from our biannual donor trip, or is it biannual? We go every 2 years. We take all of our donors over every 2 years. And we just got back and we just opened our 15th school. It was our most ambitious project yet. It was an all-girls high school. There's about 800 to 900 girls that will go to this school. And we just opened it. We even had, for the first time ever, this was a real honor, we had the president of Kenya, like the president, like the highest elected government official, the president of Kenya, come and open the school with us. It's the only school opening he's ever done since he got elected. And so it was a huge honor. And so we have just fallen in love with being able to utilize our business to do more good. And for a long time, Stephan, I struggled with money guilt. I was making great money, as in my mid-20s, but I was living in my parents' basement. And I just felt really guilty about it because my parents, I come from a blue-collar working family. They both worked 2 full-time jobs, and I was earning more than both of them combined, and I was working a fraction of the time and energy and effort. And I felt guilty about it for a long time. And what would happen was my income would get to a certain level, and then my subconscious would kick in, would say, "Whoa, Stewie, this is too much money. There's too much money." And then I would stop doing the things that were working. Like I'd stop doing the marketing campaigns that were working. I'd stop calling the clients that, were hot leads, so to speak. And as a result, my income would come back down. And I would remain in a cycle. I could never break through a certain income level. For me, it was around $400,000 until the very first time that Amy took me to Kenya and we were looking to build our very first school. And I'm talking to the chairman of the community and we have no idea what things cost. And I'm just trying to figure stuff out. And I'm asking him, I said, one of my questions was, how much does it cost to fund the full-time salary of a teacher? And he thought about it for a moment and he said, it's about $100 a month. And at the time, we were selling a piece of software, a membership software for $97 for a single site license. And I made this connection. Well, wait a minute. Like if I just sell one more license of the software and I allocate that to funding the full-time salary of the teacher, imagine the impact that I could have. And then the real light bulb went off, which was, well, wait a minute. Like what if I make a whole lot more money and I allocate a whole lot more to the people and causes that I'm passionate about? Imagine the impact that I could have. And that was a turning point. That's when I went from, generating hundreds of thousands of dollars in the business to millions to ultimately tens of millions a year. And it's because what I realized was the more money I make, the more good I can do. And so now I don't feel guilty about making money. I love making money. For the universe, I love making money because the more money we make, the more impact we can have. And so my wife and I have been on this journey with the charity. It's a huge part of what we do, but it's also a huge part of the business. My company covers 100% of the overhead for our nonprofit so that 100% of the donations go directly to the cause. So it's woven into everything that we do. Philanthropy is woven into the business in terms of how we write checks. It's woven in terms of how we weave it in with our team. It's woven in terms of involving our community. There's all kinds of ways in which philanthropy is woven in, but it's a huge part of who we are because we believe the more money we make, the more impact we can have.
So how do you weave in things like writing checks and so forth, this aspect of your business and the philanthropy kind of go hand in hand?
Yeah, there's all kinds of ways. So like I think of them in 4 categories. So you can weave philanthropy into your business and your life. Number 1, just by just writing a check. So that's easy peasy. A lot of people do that. We have a lot of donors that do that. They don't necessarily have interest in weaving it in other ways. They just believe in us or the cause, and they just write straight up write a check. So that's one way. Second way is you can weave it in by involving your team. And we do this every quarter. We have a presentation that's given by 3 people on our team. So whoever wants to can put their name in a hat, and 3 people from the team are chosen, and they then have the opportunity to deliver a 5-minute presentation on behalf of a charity or cause that they're passionate about. And then the whole team votes on who wins, and the winner gets $10,000 to be able to give to that cause or that charity that they're representing. The other 2 people, they get $2,500 to be able to give to their cause. But what's beautiful about that, Stephan, is we quickly learn what's important to different people on our team. And I've learned, one of the women on our team who actually won the last one, she was presenting on behalf of a suicide prevention organization in our local community. And I had no idea, but she had lost somebody very near and dear to her heart because of suicide. Or another woman in our team, she won one of the previous ones, and she was presenting on behalf of a organization that helps bridge or helps women who are in abusive relationships be able to have a place to be able to go with for either themselves and or for their families. And again, I learned that, she was a victim of physical and, mental abuse. And so we find out what's important to people. And many times you discover from your team, but what's magical about it is the team members get to present that check on behalf of the organization. So they're a big part of it. So the bonding of the team is incredible. So 1, you can write a check. 2, your team can do it. 3, you can involve your community. So every year we do this. We have a fundraiser at the end of the year. It's called our prediction call. We gather a whole bunch of friends and colleagues who deliver their predictions for the upcoming year. What happens then is we go out to our community and we say, hey, listen, come join us. 100%, of the proceeds go directly to charity. And so the community is contributing. And as a result, we end up raising tens of thousands of dollars. Last year, we raised just close to $80,000 on this annual prediction call. But we've done it also at live events where, we'll speak at live events and people will rally the community at live events. In fact, right behind me is a big check from Funnel Hacking Live, which is Russell Brunson's event. So they rally the group, and there is an offer that's made where 100% of it goes directly to the charity. Again, it's a great way to rally your community, so they're involved in the fundraising efforts. And then the final way that I would say is that you weave it right into your business. So we do this in our business where when somebody joins our membership, 100% of the first month of the membership goes directly to the cause. Russell Brunson does it. Russell and Todd Dickerson for ClickFunnels. Every time a new funnel goes live, they donate and contribute $1 to a cause. We have another woman in our in my Impact Mastermind. She also, whenever somebody joins her membership, she donates a meal for this community of kids in Guatemala. So there's all kinds of ways in which you can do it. But the point of the matter is the philanthropy part is woven right into the actual business. So when somebody buys X, then Y happens. And so there's all kinds of creative ways in which you can do that and weave philanthropy right in, from you writing a check to with your team, with your community, or right into the business.
That is so cool. That's very inspiring. So what is the kind of trajectory for you and in your business? And I know you got several things going on, at least with the charity, with Searchy, with the membership experience, Tribe, which I was a part of some years ago. I mentioned to you before we started recording. So there's a lot going on, I'm sure, that I don't even know about. So kind of put the pieces together for us.
Yeah, well, our business is actually really simple. There's 2 sides to it. One, there's the training side. And on the training side, we teach entrepreneurs how to generate more recurring revenue in their business through memberships. And so we do this in a variety of different ways. One, we have our signature course, which is now called the Membership Experience, as you mentioned it. Used to be called Tribe. Now it's called the Membership Experience. Second way we train people is we have our own membership. So, we're like the hair club for men. Not only did we create the product, but we actually use it too. So it's a model that we believe in. And so it is definitely a part of our revenue streams. And then we also have our masterminds. And these are for membership site owners that have crossed certain income levels and want to be surrounded by other membership site owners who are, again, focused on getting their memberships to the next level. So that's the training side of the business, where we're teaching people how to launch, grow, and scale highly profitable memberships. Then we have the software side of the business. That's the second area of the business, and that is Searchy. And essentially what we saw was there was a huge gap in the marketplace in terms of a platform that was able to serve people in the way in which we teach. And so we're so excited about what has now developed into Searchy. And it initially started as a simple tool. Now it's an entire platform helping people deliver their materials through courses and memberships. But it's so much more than that, because we focus on two big areas with that platform. One is to help you create an amazing experience for your people so that they are getting great results. If they get great results, they won't leave your membership. The only reason people leave memberships is because it's either not relevant for them or they're not getting results. And in all of my years, like literally decades of helping tens of thousands of people with memberships, I've never heard of anybody leaving a membership because they're experiencing too much success. So as long as you and I stay locked in on helping our people experience progress, then they're going to stay. And so this platform helps you do that. And then the second way in which it helps you as a membership site owner is it streamlines so much of the management and details of being able to deliver a great membership experience through automations, through AI, and through an experience that enables you to eliminate so many in-between steps that it literally saves you hundreds of hours throughout the year and or thousands and thousands of dollars if you're paying assistants to do these types of tasks. So we're really pumped about where Searchy was, where it is now, and where it's going. But the bottom line is it's a platform focused on helping you deliver courses and memberships at the highest level.
So why is it called Searchy? Did it start out as a search engine or what?
Yeah, it started out as a simple tool because it was a problem that we experienced, and I'm sure you, Stephan, and many others in your audience have experienced, and that is that, in our training programs, we host Q&A sessions. And one afternoon, I came off of a Q&A session, and I was a little bit spicy, I guess you could say, because of all the questions that I got, knew that I had already answered about 80% of them before. And so I came off the call and I said to my team, I'm like, I know I've answered, 80% of those questions before. And the team's like, you 100% have. And I'm like, well, why do I need to keep answering them? Like, can't we just send them the video of where I answered it before? And they said, well, that's a good idea in theory, but those videos are on this hard drive. So good luck going through all of those videos and identifying where in the video you were answering that specific question. And then somebody on the team said, well, wouldn't it be amazing if we could just search inside the actual video? Not search the title, not search the description, but what was actually being said. And that's what began Searchy. It began as a simple search tool where you upload your videos and it can search inside the video. And so if you search for Blue Bunny, it'll bring you to the moment in the videos where you mentioned Blue Bunny. And so it started as that, and now it's grown and evolved into so much more. And now it's an entire platform, but that's where the name Searchy came from.
Got it. So what does it do that some other competing tool doesn't do? So that use case that you started out with, I'm sure, is something that most video-based AI tools have built in these days. I mean, it just seems like kind of typical to have automated transcription and searching within the transcript and so forth. So what makes Searchy special and different?
Well, that was our party trick 3 years ago when we started the company. And none of the AI tools were available then. So yeah, the party trick was, You upload a video, it automatically transcribes, it automatically pulls the audio from the video, it's automatically searchable. So that in and of itself was a major game changer for so many people, because think about it from within your community. From a membership standpoint, there are memberships that have been around years. We, in fact, just helped one of our clients move from she had a membership with 8,000 plus members, and they had been on a WordPress platform and membership-based software, and they had 8 years worth of content. So 8,000 members, 8 years worth of content. You can imagine what a chaotic experience that is for a new member to come in. And this, by the way, is what most new members experience when they come into a membership site. It's like they come in the doors and it's like, boom, here's a whole bunch of content. Good luck finding what you need. And so that's what immediately creates frustration, and it's immediately a negative experience. And I'll just tell you from a membership standpoint, the first 30 days is so crucial for any new member. And in fact, if the member has a positive experience in that first 30 days, you can, on average, triple the lifetime value of that member. So it is so important to give them that first, amazing experience. And when they come in and they're like a deer in headlights and can't find anything, that right there presents a problem from the get-go. So Searchy, in its early days, solved that problem, because now members could type in a specific thing that they're looking for, and boom, not only could they find all the material within the membership that was relevant for that search term, but they click on it and it takes them not just to the video, but to the moment in the video where you were mentioning and talking about that very thing. So that party trick alone was the very first thing that Searchy essentially was known for, and that still to this day separates it from all other platforms, because other platforms do not even touch that level of experience. But now from there, it's just gone to a whole new level. When we think about AI, we were very early on in developing with AI. And right from the get-go, now, like when you upload a video, yes, it does the transcription and the audio and it's completely searchable. But you, again, click a button and it will go through your content, generate you headlines, summaries, key takeaways, even tags for organization of that content within 60 seconds. When we were asking our audience, like on average, how long it was taking them or an assistant to do that work, they were saying anywhere between 3 to 5 hours. That's cut down into less than 60 seconds. But then it goes further from there, because now, like with AI incorporated into your membership, now we can learn so much more about what our users are actually consuming, what they're wanting, and so forth. And imagine this, Stephan, now you can start serving content that is relevant to each individual user. See, 99.999% of other platforms is a one-size-fits-all experience. But because you've been serving your audience for a long time, nobody is exactly the same. So if you deliver the same experience, imagine how frustrating it would be if somebody who's more advanced comes in and they see basic content. What's their first thought? Their first thought is going to be like, this ain't for me. Like, I'm so far beyond this. Well, what if you have a basic person come in and they see advanced content? Well, they're going to have the same frustration, only the complete opposite, which is like, oh my gosh, this is so far over my head. I'm out. So now you're trying to provide a one-size-fits-all experience, and you're not actually ended up serving anybody. But imagine now instead, a new member comes into your membership. You ask a few questions, and you're able to identify, where are they in their journey? Are they at the very beginning stages, or are they more advanced? And if they're more advanced, boom, you start serving them more advanced content. If they're more in the beginner stages, you start meeting them where they're at and serving them more beginner-related content. This is a massive game changer in terms of the experience you now provide your members. And as a result, they start experiencing far more progress because you're giving them and serving them content that is most relevant to them. You're helping them stay locked in and focused on the next right steps in their progression. That's how we serve people at the highest level. You don't serve people at the highest level by giving them the same one-size-fits-all experience. But that's what separates Searchy from all the other platforms. And that's an example, a tip of the iceberg in terms of how it's different from other platforms.
Oh, that's great. So I'm sure it increases retention rate. What is your retention rate, if you don't mind sharing that with your membership platform?
Yeah, so great question. So yes, 100% it does massively increase retention. And as far as retention rates, here's what my general rule of thumb is. If you're losing more than 10% of members per month, so if you have 10% churn or more per month, that's a red flag. Typically, people in our community are hovering and ranging between 93 to 95% retention. We have members in our community that have upwards of 97 and 98% retention. So, that whole myth that members only stay for a few months in a membership, that's true for people that don't have a proper retention strategy. But for those of us who weave in intentionally retention strategies, we see upwards of 95% plus in terms of our retention.
That's awesome. So how do you shift your strategy, your marketing, and lead generation? Let's say you're doing consulting or services, and now you want to offer a membership site where it's more passive income or scalable. What do you need to do differently?
I don't think you need to do too much differently. The main thing with a membership is that we've got to get clear on what is the journey that somebody is on. So similar, like if you're consulting, what we're trying to identify is like, where are people in this journey, and what are they looking to achieve, and what are the few things that they should be focused on right now? Because the reality of it is that in marketing, there are a million and one different things that we can do to grow our business. But it doesn't mean that we should be pursuing all of them. In fact, my rule of thumb is the fewer things you focus on, the more progress you are going to make. And so when I'm consulting, and I reserve 1 day a month for one-on-one consulting. And the reason I do that is, one, I love keeping my iron sharp, so to speak. And when I am working with a client, I'm not looking to teach them everything that I know under the sun. I'm looking to identify, like, what are they looking to achieve in the next 6 to 12 months? And what are the few things that we can focus on right now that will create the most momentum for them to achieving that objective? So similarly, if you're in a consulting role, the same thing is true inside of a membership site, which is, one, we want to get clear on what is the path that people are looking to take from beginner all the way to advanced, as an example. And then what are the few things that each person should focus on at different stages? So we encourage people to think about the whole journey as a success path. And a success path is typically made up of 3 to 5 different stages. So if you think about, karate as an example, they have different stages, different belts, from white belt all the way up to black belt. Similarly, with what we teach inside of your membership or any membership, you want to break it down into different stages, because each stage is likely going to have a different area of focus. I'm not going to be talking to a brand new business owner about team building when it's just them and their business. Team building doesn't make sense. Scaling doesn't make sense. They haven't even made their first sale yet. So why would I even mention any of those types of things to them? I wouldn't. And so this is why it's important to break down that journey into multiple stages. Then it gives clarity around what area of focus you should be delivering for each person at each stage. And so inside of a membership, you do that thinking ahead of time, and now it's completely scalable. Because now as members come in, it's like a self-assessment. They're able to identify what stage they're at based on questions you ask. And then now we can start serving that specific member relevant content to them, helping them stay focused on their particular stage and journey. And as they progress, the content they see changes with their progression. And so we can always keep them focused on the few things that matter. So if somebody's looking to make that transition from consulting or coaching to a membership site, I would say just be more intentional about thinking about that journey and the kinds of questions that come up and the kinds of things that people get stuck on in that journey. Break it down into stages, and now you can start creating content that is relevant for each of those stages. And that's how you can begin supporting your people in their progression.
Yeah. Well, the reason I asked that question is because I tried switching from just pure consulting and agency services to a membership site back in 2016, 17, 18. And we gave it a good go for like 4 years and spent quite a lot of money. It was multiple six figures trying to get that to go. And it added up to maybe 1% of revenue. So it was a big waste of money. So,
Well, let me ask you, what do you think was the challenge? Was it a traffic problem, a conversion problem, or a retention problem?
it wasn't a retention problem.
It was or it
It was
wasn't?
not a retention problem.
Okay.
It was probably a mix of a traffic problem and a conversion problem. Yeah, traffic was the biggest issue. We did okay with our conversion rate. It certainly was a low priced offer at like $97 a month compared to our consulting.
And how are you generating traffic?
Through SEO, through Facebook ads, and co-marketing, promotional, co-promotion strategies.
Well, and this is a great point because, and you can hear through my questions, like whenever I'm working with a client, it's always either a traffic problem, a conversion problem, or a retention problem. Once we identify what is the primary problem, now we can double down on, fixing that particular issue. If it's a traffic problem, great. Now we can identify like, okay, you mentioned paid ads, or were the paid ads converting? Yes or no? If no, why not? And now we can drill deeper and deeper and deeper into the specific problem to identify, what's going on here. Because at the end of the day, like, people in our community have grown memberships from 0 to thousands to tens of thousands of members. We have one person in our community that has over 40,000 paying members at $47 a month. And I know people in your audience, because I know this is a marketing related show, that people are doing the marketer math on that. They're like, dang, that's like an 8-figure plus membership. Yeah, it is. And so, but again, it always boils down to, is it a traffic problem? Is it a conversion problem? Is it a retention problem? And then from within there, like, we start digging deeper, just like I'm asking you, okay, what kind of traffic were you using? And how was that working? Was the SEO working? No. If no, why no? Was the paid ads working? No. Yes, no. If no, why no? And we dig deeper and deeper to identify what the real issue is. Because I think sometimes it's very easy to throw the baby out with the bathwater and assuming, oh, the whole thing doesn't work. Well, no, not necessarily. Like, I'll give you an example. Like Lisa, who's in one of my masterminds, she came to me one day and during one of the calls, and she said, Stu, I need you to help me with my webinar. And I said, okay, well, why? What's the problem? She said, I suck at selling. I said, well, before we jump to that conclusion, let's just identify what's going on here. So we dug a little deeper, and I started asking her these series of, types of questions. Why do you say you suck at selling? Well, because I'm not making enough sales from the webinar. Okay, so how many people were hearing the offer on the webinar? Well, we start backing up, and actually, Stephan, her sales conversion rate was amazing. It was like around 14, 15%. So it wasn't that she had a sales problem. What we backed it out, what actually had the actual problem was that she had a show up rate problem. So it wasn't that she had a traffic problem. She was getting plenty of people registering for the webinar. What she had was a show up rate problem, meaning people were registering for the webinar, but they weren't showing up live. And if they weren't showing up live, then they couldn't hear the actual offer. And that's why she wasn't generating as many sales. And once we identified that the show up rate was the problem, now we can start getting creative on marketing strategies to get more people to show up. So I think it's very easy to throw the baby out with the bathwater, assuming in Lisa's case, oh, I suck at selling. She doesn't suck at selling. She was ready to revamp the whole presentation, throw it all out the window. I'm like, no. Like, that's actually working. Like, the thing that's the issue is you're not getting people to show up. And now we can we can put our energy and effort toward the things that actually are going to improve the situation.
Yeah. Back in the day, webinars were the way to sign people up for membership sites or different kinds of offers. And now they don't seem to pull so well. What are you finding as far as their effectiveness and the show up rates typically for webinars?
Well, I think that, just be careful. Don't make generalizations. Because would it be interesting to you, Stephan, if I shared how we had 85+% show up rate to our webinars, our 2 most recent webinars.
It's awesome.
So yeah, so this is why it's really important not to make generalizations and again, throw the baby out with the bathwater, assuming, oh, webinars suck. Oh, forget webinars. They don't work anymore. Well, no, it just might be the approach to those webinars. So as an example, year and a bit ago, I heard a strategy from a friend of mine, Ryan Levesque. And Ryan was basically using, instead of doing a free webinar, he would do a low dollar webinar. So earlier we talked about, ways to weave philanthropy into the business. And what I loved and appreciated about this strategy that Ryan outlined was that instead of the webinar being free, he gave 2 price points. It was either $25 to join live or $250 to get the recordings. So $25 to be able to attend the webinar live, or $250 just to get the recordings. But then he said, but if you join live and you stay to the end, you will get the recordings as part of it. So you could pay $25, show up live, stay to the end, and you'd get the recordings, or you could just pay $250 and get the recordings. Now, what he did, and this is why I love the strategy so much, is 100% of the revenue that was generated up front, he donated to charity. So over the course of a year, Ryan raised over $500,000 for charity. So that's a great example, again, of something we talked about earlier, of weaving philanthropy right into the actual business. But here's the webinar amazingness of this. In the vast majority of people obviously would purchase the $25, show up live, stay to the end, and get the recordings. Well, as a result of that, he was experiencing 85+% of people now showing up for the live webinar. And so we, after seeing this, I'm like, let's give this a whirl. We tested 2 webinars earlier this year, followed this exact model, and we saw the exact same results. Our one webinar, we had 84% show up. Our other webinar was 86% show up. And so my point in sharing this is, yes, we had fewer people on the webinar, but we had way higher show up rates. We were able to raise tens of thousands of dollars for charity. And we had so many more people staying all the way through to the end of the presentation. So a lot more people were hearing our offer about the membership, and therefore things converted at a lot higher in a lot higher way. So to me, again, it's all about the strategy behind the strategy. And this is a great example. To not assume that all webinars are suck and that they no longer work. I think sometimes it's just a little tweak can make a huge difference.
Yeah, speaking of tweaks like that, I think trying out different verbiage or terminology can make a big difference. Like, for example, maybe change the word course to program, or change the word webinar to masterclass, or vice versa, and see how it pulls differently.
Yeah, I mean, words and copy are some of the most important things that any of us as marketers could study, and language is so vital and important. I mean, I talk to my kids about this. Like, my kids are 12 and 9, and I'm talking to them about the importance of language. Not only the language that we use and the way we frame up our programs, but also the language we use when we talk about the results and the transformation. And the future that we are casting for people to imagine as a result of joining our programs. Language and copy is so important, and we want to pay very close attention to those details 100%.
So I'm curious to hear, what are some of the more intangible habits really that make for a successful business or venture? Like I know you recently posted on your Instagram about habit building. What are some of your secrets to success in that regard?
I like to try to keep things as simple as possible, and so when I'm thinking about growing a business, I come back to those 3 categories that we talked about earlier for membership. It's traffic, it's conversion, and it's retention. So for us, I'll give you an example. Like a year ago, we identified that traffic was a weak area of our business. So we are really, really good at conversions. And I would give us an A plus at conversions. I'd give us an A on retention, but I'd give us maybe a C plus on traffic. And the reason was because we were so heavily dependent on affiliate traffic. And affiliate traffic can be very fickle, meaning one year you can get a ton of support. The next year, a couple big players may have other commitments. And so your affiliate traffic as a whole can swing wildly from year to year. And I didn't like that vulnerability. And so last year, we made an effort to improve our ability to generate our own traffic. And it required a lot of time and energy. And so one of the things habits that we do on a regular basis as a result of this was we started testing a ton of different ways of generating ads. And so I share this because it's not a one and done endeavor. Every week we're running all kinds of different types of tests to identify ads that are going to help us generate more and more leads at a lower and lower cost. And ironically, this year, right at the beginning of the year, ad costs spiked. They were more than triple what we had seen before, but we just kept testing and testing. And Stephan, when I'm talking about testing, I'm talking about testing not only different headlines and ad copy, but different images, different style of ads, like videos versus static versus GIFs versus different angles, serious, funny, neutral. I was involving my kids in the ads. I was in the ads. We had images in ads. I said to our team, I said, listen, you have the green light to test and try anything. Our team was even photoshopping me on top of a pigeon, for example, on one of the ads. And Stephan, that was one of the ads that actually performed the best because it was a scroll stopper. People were like, what the heck is this guy doing on a pigeon? So this is what I'm talking about in terms of volume of ads. But as a result of that testing, we ended up getting our ad costs down lower than I have seen it in 4 or 5 years. We had leads coming in for like campaigns that were producing leads for as little as $1.53 per lead, which was astronomical. Whereas colleagues and friends of mine were calling and were chatting with me about their lead costs being upwards of $20 and $30 a lead. And here I am, we're generating lead costs around $1.50, $2. It was crazy. And so one of the habits is a willingness to test and experiment and try every single day. And this as a result of not only with ads, but I just had this conversation with our team this morning about social posts. We've been kind of getting into a rhythm of the same types of posts. And I said to our team, I'm like, listen, when we look at our KPIs every Monday morning and we are looking at the numbers, those numbers should inform our future decision making. It shouldn't be like, oh, okay, it's on track. Oh, it's a little down this week. Oh, okay. No. Like we should be doing something as a result of those numbers, meaning we want to be identifying what is the content that's resonating with our audience, what is not resonating. And we should be doubling down on the content that is resonating and using that to inform our decision for future content creation, just like we were with ads. So testing and experimenting is one of those habits that I believe is important individually, but I think it's also important as a team to develop that on a regular basis, because that's how you begin to experience breakthroughs like we did this year with traffic. So testing, experimentation is one. Another habit that I think is really, really important is just having conversations with others in industry to feed yourself full of great inputs. So like, this is why I have belonged to a mastermind since way back in 2004. I've been a part of one or multiple masterminds since that time. And it's not just the benefit of being part of a mastermind. Like I'm so grateful because, I also host a couple masterminds, and the level of thinking that is in these groups is what pushes me day in and day out. And there's, entrepreneurship is a really lonely journey when you're by yourself, because nobody understands what we do. Nobody understands the kinds of pressures that we're under. Nobody understands the kinds of decision making that we're making day in and day out. I was just talking to a friend of mine a few weeks ago. He runs a big business. He runs like a 9-figure plus business. And we were just talking about the kinds of things that he's navigating on a daily basis. And it's mind-boggling, the pressures and the obstacles that he faces on a regular basis that nobody ever knows about. Many times their staff don't even realize the kinds of challenges that we as entrepreneurs face. And that's the reality, and it can become very lonely if you're left alone trying to navigate all that by yourself. So that's why I just believe firmly in surrounding yourself with, others who are on a similar journey that you can bounce ideas off, get perspective from. Sometimes that could be one person, two people, five people. It could be a mastermind of a group of people. But it's really important that you intentionally surround yourself with that on a regular basis. And then the third habit that I would say I embrace on a regular basis is, the habit of coming up with new ideas, coming up and creating new ideas and being able to think on those ideas. So this morning, as an example, like I was mapping out some new ideas for upcoming videos and podcasts and so forth. And I just think it's important that we, as entrepreneurs, are continuously exercising that idea muscle, that creativity muscle, because again, we just don't want to get stale. We just don't want to get the business to be doing the same old, because before long, an AI revolution may come through. And now many people are stuck, with, in the sand type thing, not knowing, how do I move? How do I adjust? And they're just not able to because they haven't been, exercising that creative muscle and those idea muscles. So I just think it's important as entrepreneurs that we keep exercising that muscle, keep brainstorming, keep generating ideas, whether it be for content, new product ideas, et cetera, to keep ourselves and our businesses ahead of trends that are happening.
Yeah, 100%. So which masterminds are you currently in? Like I'm in 5, and it's a lot, and I don't recommend that. It's a little overwhelming, but like Genius Network is one I'll never drop out of. Metal as well.
And why is that?
It's just the value and the people in it. It's just, it's a family.
And where does the value come from for you?
The people that are in it.
Yeah. Well, that's a huge credit to Joe Polish. He's a dear friend, and I had his book. We had Joe on our, my wife and I run a book membership, and Joe's book was the featured book. What's in it for them was the featured book of the book membership. But Joe's an amazing guy, but he values, bringing high quality people together. And I think that that's a really important part of any mastermind, is that there's a a filtration process, so to speak, to ensure that the people in the room are the right people in the room. Because that's where, as you said, the value comes from. And I've experienced a very similar situation.
Yeah. Amazing. And so what are some of your favorite masterminds that you'll probably never drop out of?
Well, I'll tell you one that, again, just demonstrates the value of a mastermind. So as I explained, there's two parts of our business. One is the training side of the business, and one is the software side of the business. And what we realized was that we weren't surrounding ourselves with enough other software, companies and founders. And so we ended up joining, this was a few years ago, we joined Dan Martell's SaaS Academy. And it's full of, software as a service founders. And within the first month, there was a Facebook post from somebody outlining how to get essentially $100,000 grant from Stripe. $25,000 from Stripe and $100,000 from Amazon AWS. And it was essentially like a 20-minute process. And so my, business partner and brother-in-law, Andrew, he followed the process. He had to join this group. And then there was like some online thing that gave you a credit to the Amazon thing, and another thing that gave you. And literally within an hour, we had applied for the $100,000 Amazon AWS credit and $25,000 Stripe credit. A few days later, we got granted both. So Stephan, like within the first month, we had learned how to get grants for $100,000 from Amazon AWS, $25,000 credit for Stripe, and bada bing, bada boom, $125,000 came into the company as a result of those two things. Now, why do those companies, a smart marketing strategy, by the way, why do those companies do that? Because if they've got software founders building on top of Amazon AWS infrastructure, the likelihood of them moving it drops dramatically. So it's a upfront play to be able to get them utilizing their technology. Same with Stripe. And it worked. Here we've now processed, hundreds of millions of dollars as a result of the platform because we have used those services. But I share that because that's the value of a great mastermind. One little tip produced $125,000 in direct, bottom line savings for us. And that was from a simple Facebook post in Dan Martell's SaaS Academy.
That's super cool. All right, and I know we're out of time, so if you want to share one last nugget of wisdom that we didn't already discuss, and where they can our listeners can go to learn more and join your mastermind and work with you.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. So first, let me just give you contact information. Mine is really simple. You can always go to my website. It's just my name, stu.me. So stu.me, the most simple website URL to go to. From there, you'll find my Instagram. That's the easiest way to contact me directly, is a direct message on Instagram. But in terms of final words, here's what I would just say. From a marketing perspective, I just encourage people to keep things as simple as possible. As we talked about throughout today, there are 1,000,001 things that we can do to grow our business. But at the end of the day, start with, the big rocks. Is it a traffic problem? Is it a conversion problem? Is it a retention problem? From within there, we can unpack things further. But what it does is it brings into focus the few things that we should be pouring attention into right now. Because as I mentioned, if we try to do all things, we end up not doing anything really, really well. And that is going to limit our ability to grow both, our business, but also ourselves. So I just encourage everybody as much as possible, keep things simple in your business and in your life. What are the big rocks? What are the few things that are going to move the needle the most? Focus on your energy there, and then you can always add other layers down the road.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Stu. And thank you, listener. We'll catch you on the next episode. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer, signing off.